Maddie, how silly, I say to Gracie, who wants us to spend our free time watching the boys at practice running around a field, throwing and kicking a ball. Who wants to watch boys throw themselves into each other? I ask. I do, she answers softly, looking at the floor so I will not see the smile on her face. You don't like this game? I say sharply, knowing it is Thomas who fits his real name, Flying Deer, not the game that she likes to watch. Yes, I do, she answers again. Running around on the grass trying to catch a ball and getting thrown to the ground even when you don't have a chance of catching the ball is silly, I said. Now, if it were a game like, let's say lacrosse that requires some skill, it will most certainly not be a waste of our time, I say lightly, as though my choice of sport was so very important. She lifts her chin to assert herself, and when I see the smile has vanished from her face, I am sorry that I teased her, the best friend I have ever had. All right, I say, jumping up from the edge of my bed, where I had been reading. I still think it's silly, very, very silly, but let's go watch this silly game. I add, laughing lightly, pretending I do not see the hurt, so she knows I am not laughing at her. Her smile returns, and she too laughs, and I know I have been forgiven. You were right, she nods. It is silly, but it is still fun to watch. Arm in arm, side by side, we head toward the door, friends, sisters at heart, off to share our free time watching the young man who has caught Gracie's heart. But as we stride arm in arm down the hall, a sharp voice stops us. Girls, where are you going? The muscles of Gracie's arm tighten. I do not need to turn my head to know whose voice echoes in my ears, and I know Gracie also knows, but neither Gracie nor I speak. Answer me, Mrs. Dwyer demands. Where are you going? I know Gracie will not answer. Gracie never answers Mrs. Dwyer, who thinks Gracie does not speak English as well as she does, who does not know my friend is often quiet out of fear. Just out, I answer, for a walk. I try to make my voice sound soft, and I turn to face her sour face. I try to keep my eyes cast down, but they are stubborn and will not obey me. And when my eyes meet hers, I know the softness of my voice cannot cover the anger in my eyes. It is not free time yet, she responds sharply. Are your lessons finished? Yes, they are, I tell her. I answer for us both. For even though I know that mine are done, I know that Gracie finds her studies hard and often leaves her lessons long before they're finished. Gracie's eyes now search the floor, and I know she will not answer, so I must answer for us both. Gracie, look at me, she commands, waving her ruler in the air in front of Gracie's face. Look at me, Mrs. Dwyer says again, slowly and very, very loudly, as though Gracie cannot hear, thinking Gracie cannot understand. If my heart were not beating so hard, if I did not know there was no laughter, no kindness in this woman's heart, if I did not know Gracie's heart was trembling in fear, I would laugh to think that she thinks Gracie cannot hear or understand. Gracie looks up, but she does not answer. Are your lessons finished? Mrs. Dwyer asks again. Are they? I let my arm slide down Gracie's, cupping her hand in mine, squeezing lightly in assurance, hoping her lessons are done, hoping she will say yes, hoping she will be strong enough to stand her ground. But Gracie says nothing. Instead, her head moves slowly from side to side in response while Mrs. Dwyer bobs her head up and down confidently, knowingly, accusingly. She wraps her ruler lightly but rapidly onto the palm of her left hand as she speaks, looking not at Gracie but at me. I expect you to be industrious, and I expect you to be honest. If you are not industrious, you will accomplish nothing. If you are not honest in everything, you will be trusted about nothing. She is not looking at Gracie when she says this. She is looking at me. Our eyes meet, but there is nothing I can say. Return to your studies, she adds, pointing her ruler toward the door. Gracie turns and pulls me back into the room where dreams are allowed only in our sleep, where even the thought of a handsome young man is not powerful enough to make Gracie strong. I want to say something, but I dare not say a word. There is nothing I can say. Sarah. Your sister better be careful, Ida hisses at me as she stares icily across the table as we sit in the dining hall at our morning meal. I stare into the bowl of oatmeal that has lost its warmth before I even took my first mouthful. I do not think Ida likes me, but I do not know why. When Mrs. Dwyer makes me captain, she continues, your sister better cooperate more and have a better attitude, or she will be in serious trouble. I want to ask her what it means to be captain. I want to ask her what it means to cooperate. But I say nothing. Are you listening to me? She snaps. Ida is even bossier than Maddie. Maddie. Very nice, Maddie, says Miss Prentice. She fingers the fabric where I have carefully mended a tear in someone's apron. The mending is endless, and I often wonder whose dress, whose shirt, whose cape it is I make whole again. But I never know. The mending is endless, and I often wonder, how did this tear, this rip, this slit occur? But I never know. I did not need Miss Prentice to teach me how to sew and mend. My mother did that. When my mother and I mended, we knew what we had caused the tear, that the sleeve had fought with a nail, the hem had been trapped by a shoe, the trousers had battled with the stones. We knew. You do very nice work, she adds, taking the lifeless garment from me. I will have someone else iron this. She surprises me. We mend, we iron, we fold. This is school. The routine is clear. We mend, we iron, we fold. Sometimes I use a machine, my right foot pumping up and down to make the needle move in and out throughout the material. But sometimes I let my hands do the stitching instead of the machine, the way I mended and sewed at home. Then I do not mind the work as much. Miss Prentice stands quietly beside me, studying the mending intently, the mending I did with my hands. I think I will let you do the finer work, she continues, surprising me at once. Then she lifts my right hand, running her thumb back and forth lightly over the tops of my fingers. A blurry image of my mother holding my hands begins to surface, and her soft voice whispers somewhere in my memory, "Your tiny hands, Maddie, they are a gift." I close my eyes, and I am home, sitting beside my mother as we work together, sewing and mending. Mother. Yes, yes, that is what we will do. An empty voice, a loveless voice, brings me back to the present, and when I see it is Miss Prentice, stiff Miss Prentice, who stands beside me, inspecting my fingers as though they are not part of my being, I draw my hand back slowly, carefully, cautiously, from her unwelcome touch. Sarah. I wish I were Maddie. When Maddie is not at lessons, she works where the autumn wind coming in an open window might cool the room, where she sits in a machine and sews or mends the clothes we wear. I wish I did not work in the laundry, where it smells so strong of soap and it is so hot that no open window can make a difference. I wish I did not work in the laundry, even if Miss Velma, kind Miss Velma, who is the nicest person at the school, except for maybe Mr. Davis, tries to make it seem like it is not work. Washing clothes is a game, she tells us. You just have to see how fast you can go, and the first one done is the winner. And though Miss Velma's voice is kind and she laughs slightly when she says this, it cannot be a game, because no matter how fast we work, no matter how hard we work, we are never done. And so she is wrong, because there is never a winner. But we are never done, I tell her. She laughs again as she folds the sheets and shakes her head from side to side as though I had told a funny story. And when she laughs, she reminds me of Berta Smoke, who came to help with our washing when my mother died. Except Miss Velma is not old. No, you are right. We are never done, she says. But since it must be done, we must make the most of it. When I ask her what make the most of it means, her laughter fades and she stares toward the window as though she could see something far in the distance. And when she speaks, her voice is soft and quiet, and she reminds me of my mother. It means working in the laundry because you have nowhere else to go. Why do you not go home? I ask. I cannot go home. Home is too far, and I am a child. Miss Velma is not a child. She lifts her left hand and brushes a loose strand of hair away from her forehead as she turns toward me. I guess this is my home now, she answers, and after a brief pause, she adds, smiling, I have to make my way in the world. Her words echo those I heard from Mrs. Dwyer, who said we must learn so we can improve ourselves and make our way in the world. I asked Maddie what it meant to make our way in the world, but she did not know. I do not know how washing clothes will help me make my way in the world. I would ask Miss Velma what it means, but she is once more folding sheets. Maddie. Dear Father, my teacher said I might write you to tell you about the school and how good we are being here at school. I am very happy. I have a friend. Her name is Gracie. Sarah is happy too. She is being very good and tries hard to learn her lessons. She never complains and has not cried. You do not need to worry about us because there are many people who help us and take care of us. The teachers here are all very nice, and the matron, who is like a mother here at the school, is very kind. Sarah likes Mr. Davis very much. He helps to keep the school clean. She also likes Miss Velma, who runs the laundry where Sarah works. I like Miss Weston. She is the teacher who told me I could write to you. She said it would help my English. She says I write very well. We study hard and follow the rules. We are trying to be good. I think you would be proud of us. Thank you for sending us to this school. Your daughter, Maddie. What did you tell him? Sarah asks. I fold the paper carefully so it will fit in the envelope that Miss Weston gave me. She will mail my letter in the morning. I told him about the school and I told him about you. I told him you were being very good, I tell her. You are, aren't you? I ask. Let me see, she demands loudly, reaching across the table for the paper. Don't you believe me? I snap, clutching the letter to my chest, staring into Sarah's eyes, defying her to question my truthfulness. Would I lie to father? Sarah pulls her arms back and plants her elbows on the table's wooden surface. As she settles her face sadly into her cupped hands, she releases a long, quiet sigh. Did you tell him I want to come home? No, I did not, I answer in the strongest no-nonsense older sister tone I can employ. Do you think father wants to hear that? Her eyes begin to water and I pretend not to see. Instead, I smooth the folds of the paper, running the tips of my fingers back and forth along the creased edges. I told him you were being good and that you were studying hard and that you never cry. She looks up, and with the cuff of her sleeve, she dabs at the edges of her eyes. You did? I glance down at the letter. I dare not look at my sister. Would I lie? Sarah. My feet are tired of marching everywhere. Like soldiers, we march up and down and up and across the yard. We march to our meals and to our lessons and to our work and to the church service every Sunday morning and Wednesday night. My feet are tired of marching everywhere. Mrs. Dwyer stands at the end of the long row of beds, rapping her ruler against the palm of her hand. Tap, 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 as we exit for dinner. Let's go, girls. There's no time for chatter. Far ahead of me in the line, I see Maddie, arm in arm with Gracie Powless, as they break stride and saunter toward the doorway. Maddie whispering in Gracie's ear, Gracie's eyes cast downward, avoiding the scowl she must know is always firmly frozen on Mrs. Dwyer's face. Maddie's chin lifted upward in defiance. Maddie will be in trouble again. Matilda Tarbell, Mrs. Dwyer barks. Come here. My sister is in trouble again. Maddie slips her arm away from Gracie, pushing her friend encouragingly forward away from Mrs. Dwyer's wrath. Gracie slips into steps and marches on, out the door, while my sister spins around and stomps to attention. Perhaps we need to practice marching. Perhaps we need practice more than dinner. Mrs. Dwyer need not have included herself. She never marches anywhere. I know how to march, Maddie answers sharply. Mrs. Dwyer's ruler snaps sharply against Maddie's cheek, and my heart leaps forward. But I am not brave like Maddie. My heart says to break rank and snatch the stick out of Mrs. Dwyer's hand and save my sister. But I do not. I stay in line and wait for the signal for us to continue our march past the scene of will unfolding before us. Then march right here, Mrs. Dwyer says quietly but firmly as she waves her ruler back and forth in front of her. She lifts her left hand, signaling for the rest of us to continue out the door. Maddie begins to march, but she goes nowhere. Her feet move up and down, but she goes nowhere. I want to look at her in her eyes as I file past, but I do not dare to move my head in her direction. I do not want to practice marching. My feet are tired of marching everywhere. Sometimes when we should be at lessons or at work, Maddie pretends to be sick. I think she is tired of marching everywhere too. I wish I was strong like Maddie. I wish I was strong enough to help my sister, but I do not want to feel Mrs. Dwyer's anger, and I do not want to practice marching. Maddie says my job is to be good. I wonder what her job is. Maddie. Gracie Powless is my friend, my very best friend. Gracie is the most important person in my life, except for Sarah. Sarah is my sister, and we will have each other forever. But Gracie has no one. I came to this place with Sarah. Gracie came alone. She needs me, so she is my best friend. She is Onondaga, and I am Mohawk, and so we are part of a great nation, and so we think and speak alike. She is Bear Clan, and so am I, and so she says that surely makes us sisters. We both were sent to this school because our families thought it best, or at least they were told it was our best chance. Our best chance for what? Mrs. Dwyer says if we work hard, we will be as good as white people. She says this is our chance to prove we are as good as white people. I may not always be good, but Gracie is as good as anyone. If coming to this school meant I met Gracie, then I am glad I am here. Gracie says I am her best friend. She believes we would have found each other anyway, that we did not need school that makes us march everywhere. Gracie does not like to march either. She says it makes her feel as if she is always in a hurry. It makes her feel as though her life is not real and that her body marches off while her soul stays behind. Sometimes when our souls are together and we forget where we forget to march, and then we are in trouble again. So here I am, marching, going nowhere, so I can prove to Mrs. Dwyer that I know how to march. I march and march and march, going nowhere. Mrs. Dwyer watches, her arms folded across the front of her black dress, watching me march and march and march, going nowhere until Gracie and Sarah and the other girls march back from supper. I do not mind missing supper. I do not mind being in trouble. But Gracie is not as strong as I am, so I have to be strong for both of us.